Let's talk about the latest AI threat, shall we? They couldn't just copy normal books and steal voice actor jobs. Now they are specifically targeting the Sapphic book community. A post from jfiction.com, Jae, I think is pronounced J. We'll link it down below. Uh, they have found, after some serious investigation, that there is basically I think epidemic is the right word, with suspicious titles flooding the market. 100, according to this post, 129 suspicious titles were identified, mostly published within the past month, likely all by the same person under 17 different pseudonyms. They go on to share things that they looked for, how they identified them. They have a bit of a history of tracking down these AI ripoffs, but let's talk about why. Obviously, it's a big deal that AI is just ripping off books to begin with, but why is it so important that it's now ripping off the Sapphic community? Don't all jump in at once.
I was gonna give that to Beatrice because you have
I
such strong opinions, and I
I was
figured
gonna
that
give
you
it
would
to
be
you
ready
because
to
I have
go.
such strong opinions.
Yeah, the new plan is we make Beatrice go like last because otherwise she just rants for like 35 minutes and people forget about things.
Okay, well, that I think that Beatrice will have more interesting things to say, but I can certainly start. I think it's important that it's coming specifically for Sapphic novels because there's already a very, very limited selection of Sapphic stories that are out there and available to read. Like, I actually tried a little while ago because I was thinking to myself, like, wow, I'm doing such a good job reading like a bunch of different kinds of stories. Let me like count on my hands, like how many queer stories or queer romances like I personally have read, like published ones, the ones that you can buy in like Barnes and Noble and stuff. I'm not talking about the self-published ones because that was what started it. That I had read one and I was like, let me see if I can like, see what I got from Barnes and Noble. And I'm doing such a great job. And I tried counting out like the queer love stories or even just fantasies that have like queer subplots in them. And I was like, wait, it's actually not as many as I thought. Actually, it's like less than 12. And I'm someone whose like entire job and everything that like I do for work and my own reading and everything revolves around finding like interesting new diverse authors. And like I'm struggling. It's literally part of my job and I'm struggling. What the heck? And so I'm sure some arguments for the AI like explosion of Sapphic stuff will be like, well, I mean, that's good though, because if you're not seeing many, Sapphic stories or queer romances or whatever, this is solving that problem with like quantity over quality. But my counter argument would be that there's always been good quality queer stories. It's just that the number that like make it into bookstores are very, very low because it kind of you have to be fitting exactly what like an agent and a publisher are both looking to like put in their portfolio in order for your story to get accepted. That's how the funneling works. It has to not just be a good story, but also fit with like the people who are looking at it and what they professionally are looking to accomplish. Um, and I worry a lot that this influx of AI really, I mean, putting aside the ethical issues of like scraping other people's work and then like regurgitating it into like a mass distribution of, shitty romances. One of these looks like the woman is dancing with herself. Is kind of, I don't know if you guys are looking at the same article I am, but it's called The Wedding Week Contract.
Oh yeah.
It looks like she's like hugging a mirror or something.
Yeah, it's
Um,
weird.
But like putting aside the ethical issues, it's also like actively putting a smokescreen in front of a lot of other original ideas that are no doubt excellent, that are like waiting to get like a chance that will definitely be better than the wedding week contract where she's just looking. This is the one I keep looking back at. And it's making it harder for people who might actually want to read the cool up and coming new queer story by like like an undiscovered author to find something that's not just crap, for lack of a better word. Also, if you're kind of dipping your toes in the water and going, well, I'm kind of curious. I myself, want to experience what queer fiction has to offer, and you don't know what you're doing, and you try one of these books, and then you are horribly disappointed, you could get totally the wrong idea about what queer literature is, because you're looking at like a copy of a copy instead of something that was new, original, and actually written by someone in the community. So that's my 2 cents.
That was much more interesting than you gave yourself credit for.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
Thank
great.
legit.
you.
We could feel
That
the
was
passion behind that one.
Appreciate it.
Josh, eh?
Jashi?
oh my goodness. Like how do I follow that up? Like
I mean,
I
it's that or you can
feel
follow Beatrice.
oh, that's so true. I'm
I
sorry,
could go. Do you want me to go? I can go.
go ahead. Let me try to think of how to formulate my words right now.
Well, first of all, I wanted to thank Gigi, who is the creator of this post that alerted us for like this happening. Their Threads account is Inglorious Gigi, and Gigi is like Gigi. And they explain it so beautifully in their article. I wanted to read a little chunk of it in their own words, and it says that these people are not writers. They use AI to scrape our plots, our blurbs, and our characters to make money without putting in any of the work. They steal from real books written by queer women, non-binary writers, and other marginalized creators, likely without having an idea of what it means to be part of the LGBTQ community. These books also erode readers' trust in authors, very similarly to what Sabrina said. Readers might start to hesitate to take a chance on new to them author, fearing that the author they are familiar with may be one of the AI spamming culprits. For some authors, this might be the straw that breaks the camel's back and makes them give up writing. Because what's the point if anyone can just steal their ideas, toss them into AI, and make money off of it? And I think it's a very strong and to the point and very well worded way of explaining this whole situation and why it is important in the first place. So I really wanted to them out. They did a very good job. And actually, if you read the article, which I totally recommend, they point out the exact similarities of why they believe these are ripoffs. And they're basically just like changing the characters' names and kind of somehow the professions or barely circumstances, and then leaving everything else the same. And I mean, I am a Sapphic author, so this hurts personally. A lot of the podcasts have been like very personal to me recently, and I think that's why it gets so heated. But it's really not shocking, unfortunately, because the more than all of the political climate and everything that is happening in the world happens, a lot of people are trying to be more conscious about the things that they are consuming. For example, the example that Sabrina gave, like Sabrina was like, I want to experience queer fiction. I want to go beyond what is maybe like being pushed at big retail stores and like go into their shelves and actually look for the things that I would like to know more about that either represent me or don't represent me, and I want to read other people's life experiences. And I feel like lately there has been a huge shift in the market for people wanting to read diverse stories because people are consuming with more intention. And this person or people that are creating all of these AI ripoffs have clearly seen that as an opportunity to get money, like in a very similar way that they were doing like all the other like AI garbage stuff of other genres and other things. And the truth is that I haven't seen a very big amount of Sapphic representation publicized in like very big mainstream books. I would dare to say that I don't know if it's because of like what I consume and like the way that my world exists. I see other types of queer representation more prominently like thrown at my face than Sapphic representation. And whenever you don't find it right then and there, whenever you find it, you're going to become very passionate about it if it's something that you really want to read and enjoy and consume and continue supporting the people that are creating these things. And Sapphic books, for what I have seen, and other queer created books have very strong fandoms, very strong people that really believe in them and want to continue supporting those beliefs and supporting those people and discovering all of these diverse stories, which means that this whoever it is that is like under this 17
Yeah,
authors,
17
12,
pseudonyms or 12, yeah.
yeah, um like they can see how quickly it's probably to make money out of this because it's like, oh, I want to continue reading more Sapphic stories. I like queer literature. A lot of people are realizing that they enjoy queer literature over like other types of literature, for example, and they continue buying and supporting all these stories and all of that. And unfortunately, a lot of this AI ripoffs are so similar to the original books that people could get confused very easily. The covers, the AI generated covers are similar to the actually illustrated by human covers of these books, and they are ripoffs of the books in the top charts. And we have seen this happen when it's like a story about, for example, here it is a story about a princess and a football captain, the original one, and then the AI generated one is a story about a princess and a cricket captain. So maybe in conversation, if I am recommended one of my friends, oh my God, I read this book. It's called The Princess Match by Clare Lyndon, and it's about a princess and that it has a boyfriend, I think, but then meets a captain of a sports team, and they want to, I don't know, elope together, whatever. I haven't read the book. This person can look up book about princess and like sports captain, and then they find this AI ripoff, and they think it's the actual book that was recommended to them by their friend that they really liked. And it's affecting directly the author, the people that enjoyed the book, the person that is consuming it, the friend that recommended it, and it's just a cheap way to get money. I hate these people.
I think that's you kind of hit on it at the end there. Like this is an economic thing,
Yeah.
not just this year, but past years and throughout history. There has been an issue with a growing fear, to use the actual words from this article, of LGBTQ plus books. And, they're routinely subject to book bans. They're routinely subject to censorship. So they're going to already see a reduced, net sales just because of the shitty climate that we live in now. And I don't mean weather, I mean the fact that people are so openly anti-LGBTQ, and they can fuck right off. But you know, you are preventing these people from making a living doing the thing that they are passionate about and the thing that they love because you have an AI that can rip off a bunch of stuff, and you're lazy. You're lazy, and you can't handle that other people are being creative, so you're finding a way to rip off their creativity in a way to make yourself a profit. I don't know if you're actually getting rich from this. I think we've talked about that before, but regardless, it's a shitty thing to do.
I think it's definitely a volume thing because if not, they wouldn't have released like how much was it? Like
It's like
129
129.
books in a month. And I do,
Um,
and
yeah, so
there's absolutely
129,
no,
so 129 suspicious titles were identified, mostly published within the last month, likely all by the same person under 17 different pseudonyms.
so it's I for me it's like a bait and switch
Hmm.
strategy. Like the only because this person is not pretending to be the authors. The books are just being released en masse. And that's why I believe like it's so intentionally similar to other things that are there because of the whole bait and switch kind of thing. People are going to look for the real books, and the AI generated ones are going to be such big quantity that the chances of someone buying the wrong one because they don't realize it are becoming like increasingly bigger. Like I believe that that's what is happening in this person's brain. Therefore, the more that they create, the more they can flood the market with this thing, and then
I mean,
maybe
it's
accidentally get sales.
it's honestly like we talk about in marketing. It's the algorithm where they see, all right, well, this person's books are routinely getting picked up, they're routinely getting purchased. Let's promote those books even more. So it's
Yeah.
a cycle that feeds into itself. Now, Yashi, you've had your time to gather your thoughts.
I was going to point out that it really sucks that this is happening to mostly ebooks on KU. It kind of makes me wonder if like Kindle Unlimited actually has enough protections for their authors against AI. And I mean, I guess this kind of points out like no, they don't. And Bia's right, like people are seeing that right now people really want sapphic romance stories. The best way to get money is by feeding into these, as they would call it, trends, and not just give them the proper representation that they deserve. I think all of this, like when I was doing my research and talking to more people about the recent AI upsurge, is that they were talking about how influencers over COVID started promoting using AI to write books. And that's why we started seeing more of an influx in the market. So I don't know, it just kind of sits really wrong with me that we're seeing it trickle into a already small community or group of people who have been writing these authentic books and just kind of take away their voice from them in a sense.
I
I
think
think
you
taking away their voice is a perfect description of what's happening.
I think it is. I think you actually raised an interesting point that I hadn't considered until now is how did the AI scrape all this? Like, is there
Yeah.
basically zero protection on Kindle Unlimited for books? Like, could I go on there with an AI and scrape every single book on Kindle Unlimited, or are maybe books that are through major publishing houses or significantly more popular authors, are those protected better, differently?
How how were the books that were scraped for Libgen scraped? Do you know, Yashi?
Um, I don't honestly. I think you are able to just download the book and just
Hmm.
put
Yeah,
it
I
on
think LibGen was downloaded.
yeah. Um,
Because
I'm not
I'm
sure if
guessing
Kindle
if
did the
that
same thing.
it's like a similar situation in the way that these people are scrapping things en masse. Because I know like pirating has been existed for a really long time. So is the scrapping technique just the same technique that people have been using to pirate books, or is this something new that we should try to see how it works in order to protect ourselves better?
Another
And
thing is that we can't fully be certain that most companies want to protect us against AI in
That
a
is true.
sense.
mhm.
Um, and not that they don't, some might want to, but they don't have the means to. AI is such a new thing that well, it's not a new thing. Let's
Hmm.
be real. Um, for us, generative AI is a new thing, and we don't know how to fully stop it all the time because it's going to keep improving, and that's the sad part.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading a little further down the article. Several authors and I have reached out to Amazon. We haven't heard back. Some of the books we discovered are no longer available on available on Amazon, but we're not sure whether Amazon removed them or the culprit took them down because they were garnering too many one-star reviews. We don't yet know Amazon's stance on those AI ripoffs. Since those people aren't copying our stories word by word, and the AI introduced enough differences to the original, it likely doesn't count as plagiarism. Ideas aren't protected by copyright. Only the specific way an author wrote the idea is. The law hasn't caught up with what AI technology can do, so authors likely don't have much legal protection in these cases.
One of the good things about the article, and another reason why I really encourage people to read it fully, is that they have a list of red flags that accumulative you could potentially see that work could be an AI ripoff, but also all of them have a caveat. And I think that's very important to show, hey, just because of the fact that these things could be similar, it doesn't mean that it's a
Hmm.
ripoff. And you shouldn't be witch hunting anyone, which I think when all
Yes.
of these things happen is extremely important that we exercise a critical thinking and we don't start accusing people of doing things without having reasons why.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this is probably the best written example of how to find AI generated stuff. But like you said, there's always going to be an exception to the rule. And this author calls out, hey, there's always going to be an exception to the rule. Sometimes, it's this, sometimes it's that. So don't automatically assume it's an AI.
Well, and there's also a list on here about things that readers can do if they believe
Yes.
that they have found an
Hmm.
AI ripoff. It says spread awareness about AI ripoffs by sharing the blog post, which I wholly recommend. This is an amazing, amazing piece of research. Um, if you come across a suspected ripoff, alert the original author so that they can check it out. And then there's a warning about being very careful not to jump to conclusions and accusing potential real authors.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, a big part of that is all the tropes that are inherent with certain genres, can definitely, I mean, how many like fake dating romances are there out there? Like a ton. Just because the idea is the same doesn't mean that the story was a direct ripoff. And then also this says use Amazon's report an issue feature or leave one-star reviews only if you're absolutely certain it's a ripoff, preferably after getting confirmation from the original author. I really like that they're trying to prevent people from doing, like Beatrice was saying, like a witch hunt against it, because there are a lot of very passionate people out there who feel very strongly about AI generated content. And that's great. But it becomes harmful when they start tearing down real creatives in their quest to destroy all AI generated creations.
Yeah.
So
I
that, yeah.
I was gonna say, technically, in at least America, you are innocent until proven guilty. We don't typically abide by that because, why would we follow our own laws? But in this instance, this is essentially what this author is preaching is you can, if you are going to prove that this person is guilty, make sure you prove it. Treat them as an innocent until you can prove it and then act.
Yeah. All that said, there were some really good red flags that I would like to make sure that we mention in the podcast in case you hear all this and still don't read the article. I want you to know some of the good ones. Here are some of the common red flags that were listed. The book uses generative AI for everything, like AI generated covers, an original, like rewriting the original blurb using AI, using AI to rewrite the book, stuff like that. If Gen AI is in a bunch of different places, it's a better chance that it would be used for the actual book. They also talk about like the obvious similarities, both changes. Beatrice, you mentioned this already, like the captain of the football team versus the cricket captain of the cricket team. And then there's an example here where there's a book that they believe very strongly believe. See, even they're leaving some grace for themselves as well. That this is a ripoff, and one of them has a newsreader main character dragged out of a work dinner to the police station because the 16-year-old daughter has been arrested for carjacking. The other one has a newsreader main character who's dragged out of reading the news to the police station because the 16-year-old daughter was been arrested for vandalizing. So it's like the same characters, and the only thing that's different is like what they were doing when they had this thing happen. Reading the news or a work dinner, and carjacking or vandalizing. But otherwise, the details are all the same, which is very suspicious. That's beyond like, oh no, it was, a newsreader who had difficulty with their daughter. That's different. Um, there's also some parts about looking for very specific language. Um, there's a wonderful example between the back of the book and the on each thing, the original and what was believed to be the AI ripoff. And the words are so similar. They'll use like royal playbook and like authentic and captain, and here's a pins an MBE on. That's such a specific phrase, and it
And the
apparently
words are
shows up in both of
also
them.
on the same order, which I think it's important to talk
Yeah,
about too. It's not like every single thing that has a word that was used in another blurb that is remotely similar. They are the same exact order, almost the same exact sentence structure.
yeah. There's one more that I actually appreciated because I don't think I would have caught this, but in some of the AI generated covers, the name on the book doesn't actually match the name that's in the system. So in
Hmm.
this one, it's got a cover and then the author's name is different than the title's the same, but the author is different. So that's quite interesting. Um, and
That's funny.
then
I looked at that picture like 5 times, and until you said it right now, it did not register. Oh yeah, the author's name
no,
is
that's
different.
why that's why I
My
wanted to make sure to mention it because I was like, oh,
my
I would not have looked.
My favorite one of all of this is that in one of the AI generated covers that they show, the one that's to the right to the woman that looks like she's hugging herself, the
Uh-huh.
author is called Lesbian Rumsden.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the one that was actually the most interesting, I don't know if I would have picked up on, is the ones that have like the instant language translation. Because typically if your book is getting translated into other languages, it's been picked up by, like a major publisher because that costs a lot of money. But if they publish, the example here is the English edition, the German edition, the French edition instantly, that should be a red flag. And if they have like 10 or so languages, it's unlikely that someone speaks 10 or so languages fluently enough that they could translate them that
And
quickly.
also in like that, yeah, that short span of time. Another
Hmm.
point that they say that it's just another, which is goes with the list Sabrina was going over. Another layer of like how fucked up this is that a lot of the covers are very intentionally really diverse, and that is probably all the whole idea of like trying to catch the people that are intentionally wanting to read things with people not only part of the queer community but also coming from different backgrounds.
yeah. The other one that caught my eye was the no author presence, which I mean, this one does come with a big caveat because I know that one of the things that we are trying to fix at StoryForge is the fact that, well, right now, to be an author and to have a book that you're trying to promote, you need to be a marketer. Even if you are not a marketer or you're no good at it, you don't enjoy it, it's something that you don't have time for in your life, that kind of goes with the requirement of promoting a book right now. Um, but it says that one of the things that you can look for in a book that you're not so sure about is having an author that has absolutely no social media presence or no profile images or perhaps like an AI generated image for their social media photo, but like no posts. Because there is a lot of work, Beatrice can speak to this, that goes into promoting a book that you have created. And I know that you, especially in the last couple of weeks, have been just pouring your heart and soul into increasing your online presence so that your book will be found.
Yes, I speak from experience on that and also on the translation thing that Tim said. That that took me like 6 months to translate something that was already written.
Was it 6 months? I thought it was like a year, because I feel like
It
you'd started when
it
I
took
joined.
me like 6 months to translate it and then like a good amount of months to edit on top of the translation.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what it was. Another thing that I think it's kind of like important to note, it goes again, everything I feel like goes with the same idea that I keep saying, that this is very, unfortunately, very intentionally done. And it can just have been someone, I mean, if they're using AI generated everything, it makes sense that someone one day was bored and they were like, ChatGPT, tell me the best way to earn money. And I don't know,
Hmm.
ChatGPT just vomited this idea. Some of the author names that have been potentially flagged as being the ones with the AI generated books have also names that would be usually associated with minorities. For example, Maya Ramos is something that you would assume that is probably someone that either has like some Hispanic descent or like they are Hispanic themselves. Again, multiple ways that they could catch someone with good intentions that doesn't know any better. And I don't know, it's honestly terrifying seeing the covers again. A lot of them have gotten to the point that they are trying to mimic the style of the illustrations that are very popular in the romance genre nowadays. Instead of going for like more realistic stuff, like some of them are going for realistic stuff, but a lot of them are trying to go to that more like caricature, like cell shaded, almost like comic like illustration, almost like vectorized. You can see them in the instant AI translations image. That style of illustration has become very prevalent in the romance genre, and it's something that people have enjoyed a lot, especially nowadays that people are trying to do more stuff in order to support artists, that authors are taking the time to research artists and want their art in the covers instead of using stock images or photographies. And if you see these things small, there are high chances that you cannot notice the things that immediately would flag as AI generated if you saw them big. And as Jashi said, this is specifically for ebooks. So you are really not going to see them very big if you're buying them like on your phone or if you're just scrolling through Amazon. Multiple red flags on just the whole business model that this person or people are doing. And again, just make sure that you're supporting the person that created this whole post. Their name is Georgina Kirsting, and um their name on Threads is Inglorious Gigi. I think it's really important to make sure that we keep supporting people that are trying to voice these things that are happening and spread awareness about these things instead of kind of like just turning a blind eye. Probably a lot of people had also determined that these things were AI generated, but it took to them specifically to create this huge list. And it looks like it took so much time to compile, to explain, to make sure that all of the right word was using. So really important that we're giving the support to the people that are really there trying to spread awareness of how we are being taken advantage of. And I speak again as a Sapphic author.
A really important thing from all of this, because I'm sure some folks who are listening will think like, oh, well, I better be careful and like be very, very, diligent and make sure that I'm not buying, anything that I think could possibly be AI. And I don't think that's actually the takeaway, because I'm a little afraid that people will listen to this and think the takeaway is like,
Hmm.
well, this is a brand new author to me. I don't know if I can really trust them. I don't have the time to do all the research that it would take to, figure out if this is legit. Because we talked about a lot of things, and this article also talks about a lot of things. I don't think that you should, approach your book buying with this high level of paranoia. I really I think that it's much more important to be aware that what you're
Yes.
looking at might be AI generated. And if you're not sure, I would say still go for it, because it's better to me to have that kind of risk and maybe find a new author who might just be really bad at creating content, like in terms of promoting the book, but like their writing's excellent, like one thing I've found consistently is that we all want to judge a book by the cover, and that's a good instinct when there's a whole publishing industry like helping to make sure that cover represents the book. But but when it comes to just an average person writing a story, it doesn't always apply. The writing might be fantastic, but the presentation not excellent. But yeah, if you're not sure, and if you have a little bit of bandwidth, do some research, but please don't stop trying new books and new authors because you're worried it might be an AI scam.
Remember, AI is hurting indie authors, and it would be really bad if we continue to let AI do that to us.
Yes.
So on that note, I think it's time to wrap up. We hope that, if you are interested in finding more new voices and hearing more news stories, you'll join us at StoryForge, storyforge.com, a reading and writing platform dedicated to promoting new and unheard voices. So on that note, publishers behaving badly. It's not you, it's them.